Did Jesus even exist, or was he just a character made up? Is there any contemporary history, documentation outside of the Bible that is reliable enough to say, yes, this is absolute proof? Most people would say the Bible is proof, but using the Bible to prove the Bible is not a good way to prove the Bible. Biblical scholars like Bart Ehrman himself suggest that while they have to treat the Bible as historical evidence, they still don't know if what they have is what was even said or implied or intended, because they have absolutely no original copies of any of it. So they don't know what was said, what was implied, what was mistranslated, what was added, taken away. So the question is there any reliable is the key word, history documentation outside of the Bible? One of the contemporary historians that people like to use in the comments is Philo. One of the problems with Philo is that Philo never mentions Jesus. Philo mentions this concept of the divine logos, right? Or word, okay? And Christian apologists like to interpret this as referring to Jesus, when indeed Philo was not referring to Jesus, but Philo was referring more to an impersonal principle, not a person. He was referring to this impersonal principle. Most agree that Jesus was a local, relatively unknown figure from Galilee, not a major historical event worthy of mentioning by Philo, a cosmopolitan Alexandrian philosopher. Another problem is that Jesus is just not someone that Philo would have had in his peripheral to write about. Philo's writings focused on Jewish mysticism, Platonic philosophy, and allegorizing scripture, not on Galilean movements or messianic claimants. So why do Christian apologists get confused with Philo? Well, Philo described the Logos as God's firstborn, an intermediary, an image of God, and a means of creation. Concepts that resonate with the New Testament descriptions of Jesus as the Word in verse John. Once again, though, here's the problem. Philo's Logos is an abstract, impersonal, divine principle, while Christian theology identifies the Logos with the historical person, Jesus, who is fully God and man. So while Christian apologists claim that God came and dwelt in Jesus in the flesh, the difference with Philo's philosophy is that Philo's Platonism devalued the body. It was seen as a tomb of the soul, making an incarnation of God entering the human flesh conceptually impossible for him. You see, the problem with this is that Philo is consistently talking the same kind of language, referring to the same kind of philosophy, Platonism, and he's all of a sudden going to switch that up for Jesus, whom he didn't know? Now, some scholars like Richard Carrier argue that early Christians adapted Philo's concept of celestial angelic logos, sometimes associated with heavenly Jesus, to form the basis of their Christology, gradually merging it with a historical figure. Now, in closing, it goes on to say that in essence, the problem isn't that Philo had a problem with Jesus, but that his philosophy and focus differed so greatly from early Christianity that he either ignored Jesus or conceptualized a divine intermediary, the Logos, in a way that Christians later adapted and transformed into the person of Jesus Christ. So when I ask if there's any reliable contemporary historian documentation, Philo does not seem very reliable. So as far as Philo being a contemporary historian writing reliable documentation on Jesus, there's some holes in that bucket. But I want to know what you guys think. Let me know in the comments. Is there any actual reliable evidence that is foolproof that Jesus did or did not exist? Y'all stay blessed.